Well, good afternoon, everyone. This is Monday, the 22nd day of June, and welcome to our daily COVID meeting. I really appreciate you giving us a couple of extra hours to try to pull this together. There is a tremendous amount going on, and we have a full show for you today with updates and what's happening in the COVID world. So if you're ready, let's go ahead and dig right in. We're going to start today by looking at the numbers. We did not have a particularly good weekend here in Florida. The total number of cases in Florida are sitting at 97,291. The number of individuals who have contracted COVID is sitting at 97,291. That number since last Friday, when we last reported, has gone up over 12,000 new cases in what is essentially just a little bit more than 48 hours. And so we continue to see a very aggressive spread throughout the state of Florida. And there are many articles and experts who are saying that Florida is on its way to becoming the new epicenter for COVID. We've had 3,161 deaths. If there is any silver lining in this rapid expansion of COVID, it's the fact that over that same 48-hour period, the number of fatalities only increased by 100. So we're seeing more people who are getting an exposure and a diagnosis, but the fatalities are rising at a much slower rate. The real test is going to be what happens in 14 to 21 days as those who have been exposed or infected now become sick and either recover or pass away. It is a concern, and it's something that we continue to monitor. If this affects the decisions we make in terms of reopening and lifting restrictions, and we'll talk a little bit more about that impact as we move forward. Here in Pinellas County, our count is 3,606. That is up nearly 200 over that same 48-hour period. Our fatalities only went up 3. So we see the trend in Pinellas County mirroring what is happening in the state. Pasco County continues to be very stable. Over the last 100 days, they've only had 17 fatalities. And here in the United States, we've had 2,280, 969 cases with about 120,000 people who have succumbed to COVID. We are in day 18 of the second phase. The governor rolled this out and expected phase 2 was going to be 14 days. We've exceeded that. There is no indication from the governor's office that we are even anywhere close to entering phase 3. And what we're hearing is this is going to run at least another 2 weeks before we consider entering phase 3 as a state. Testing continues to grow, although very slowly. We are now up to 75,668 tests administered, and the testing, the number of individuals who are testing positive, the number of percentage of people who are testing positive is about 4.8%. Last week, it had been pretty stable at 3%, 3.1% over the last 2 weeks. So we will continue to watch and see if that number climbs as the number of new cases really increases as well. In terms of hospitalizations here in Pinellas County, we are 581 cases, and in our specific zip code, we're just a little bit over 60. So Pinellas County continues to do a little bit better than the average throughout the state, and significantly better than what we see over in Hillsborough County. I'm going to turn now to Leslie and ask her to give you an update on what's happening here at the community in terms of our specific resident population. Before I turn that over to Leslie, I did want to notify you that over this weekend we did have a confirmed positive COVID-19 diagnosis from a staff member over in our assisted living. This staff member has not been on campus for over 7 days, and we do not believe she represents a significant exposure risk for anyone on our campus. She was exposed outside of Regency Oaks. She became aware that she was not feeling well. She followed the proper procedure. She reported it. We put her into self-isolation. We had her tested. We got the results, and she is now at home in quarantine and following the recommendations and procedures of the CDC. We anticipate that she will recover. Because she paid attention to our protocol and followed the proper screening, we were able to diagnose this early, hopefully in the pre-symptomatic stage before she started her viral shedding, and we believe that the exposure risk for our AL assisted living is very minimal and non-existent for our independent living residents. Later this afternoon, I will be putting a letter of notification in every resident's box advising you of the exposure. One of the goals that we have set for our COVID-19 task force is to be as transparent and honest with our residents as we possibly can. And so I wanted you to have that coming directly from me with a follow-up correspondence in your mailbox this evening. I'm going to turn it over now to Leslie.
Hello everyone, just wanted to inform you that in independent living we currently have 22 residents that are on quarantine. That's new residents, our non-COVID related hospital stays, as well as residents coming back on overnight vacations, as well as 5 residents in our skilled nursing are under quarantine and no one in our assisted living. For staff members that are under quarantine, we have a few staff members over in our licensed buildings, our skilled nursing and assisted living, that we are getting tested for exposure for COVID-19. For residents testing, we have 0, and for employees, we currently have 2. And for COVID confirmed cases, we've had our past 1 resident and currently just the 1 employee that is positive. But just to reiterate, as Brant stated last week, all of our staff members and our residents over in our skilled and assisted living, when they were tested by the National Guard, no one came back positive and they were all negative.
Okay, well, thank you, Leslie, for that update. A couple of more things that I'd like to share with residents. Terry Ross, one of our North Building residents, had spoken to me about, he finds these forum. Every Friday we do a weekly forum with the department managers, and we've talked about some of the updates that we have provided. And although the information is very good, it is verbal, and the slides go by very, very rapidly. And Terry had suggested perhaps we could produce a summary where residents would have at their fingertips a list of exactly what's happened, what's changed, where we are in the process. Tonight you'll receive this one-page summary, and it talks about what has changed, what's staying the same. And we will try to update this on a routine basis so that you have the most current information at your fingertips and will be better able to understand how we are progressing and making changes. We want to spend a little time today talking about how we're moving forward in some of these changes. Because we are experiencing a bit of a surge out there in the global environment, Regency Oaks is making some retractions on things that we have done in the past as we continue to move forward. And so this is sort of going to be a mixed bag. We will continue to remove restrictions. work on an overall plan of moving forward with the purpose of opening up the community. But at the same time, we may have baby steps backwards in order to retract where we went too far. And if there is a specific behavior that we've identified as being more high risk than we think it offers value, we may be pulling things back here and there, all the while moving forward and lifting restrictions. So we want to talk today about some of the restrictions that are being lifted, and we also will address some of the restrictions that we're pulling back on. Effective this morning, we are now offering a continental breakfast service that is available for pickup at the tavern, and so that additional service is being introduced. You now have multiple options to choose from in terms of getting meals at both lunch, dinner, and now breakfast. Eat as often as you choose. Make sure that you are getting the food that you need. We are doing that because of our transportation currently not being available for group runs to Publix or other grocery stores. Effective today, we've adjusted the size of our groups. Small group activities outdoors have now been increased to 50 residents. Where previously we were trying to limit it to 30, we've now bumped that to 50 residents in any one location exterior throughout the campus. Our small group settings interior have been increased from 15 to 20. So some of those activities that were restricted to 3-4 tops can now be expanded by an additional 8 or 2 additional 4 tops. So it's just another baby step of moving forward in lifting restrictions and allowing more freedoms across the campus. The pool is just about finished. Darwin did the final punch this morning. The deep cleaning is scheduled. The putting furniture in place is right now scheduled for Thursday, and we are shooting for a pool grand reopening on Friday, and Tiffany's going to be telling you a little bit more about that in just a minute. Our housekeeping has been modified. We are now going to include floor care, whether it's vacuuming or mopping, and we also are going to be doing some limited dusting. Now, here is the restriction that is still in place. The object of our housekeeping restrictions is to reduce the amount of time in the apartment because it reduces the exposure. So if I used to spend 40 minutes in your apartment and I can now do it in 20 minutes, I've reduced the exposure risk to you personally by 50%. So we're not back to where we were, where every week we're going to come in and completely clean your apartment. Our goal is still to do 50% of what we used to do, and we will rotate between doing your toilets, sanitizing your counters and sinks, and now we've added floor care to that rotation. So look for that change this week. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Tiffany, and she's going to provide you with some updates as well.
Good afternoon, Regency Oaks, and happy Monday. I just have a few updates for you for programs. As Brent mentioned earlier in the video, the community has noticed that there is a spike in number of new cases. So the first thing that we look to do is to figure out how can we keep our community safe. So I just want to touch on a few things that we'll be doing in our programs and activities to make sure that we're able to keep everyone safe at the community. The first one will be some of our trips that we used to provide to our residents, we're having to decrease by about 50% because we really want to make sure that those appointments that we're going to are all essential. You have to remember when you're going to those doctor's offices, some people are there because one, they're sick. So if you do have essential appointments, we are asking that you still keep it with Tuck, but with us having to cut back services by about 50%, please make sure that if you just have a routine checkup, let's try to reschedule that for a later date. So please, just a reminder that Tuck will still be doing our essential transportation trips, but please make sure that you schedule in enough time because we are cutting back by about 50%. Also, we're doing our pool grand opening. I know everyone's so excited for that. At 2 p.m., we will also be serving ice cream near the alfresco dining, and we welcome you to walk around the pool and see everything that we've done to our pool area, and we look forward to seeing everybody. And again, the pool grand opening will be Friday, June 26th at 2 p.m. We look forward to seeing you. I would also like to mention that you'll probably notice near the front desk area in our entrance that we will be just slowing down the process. We really just want to make sure that any person that's coming on campus has been screened properly and are asked all of the questions. We noticed within the last few weeks, which is natural for all people, we got a little bit relaxed. And we want to really make sure that any person that is coming on campus is screened properly because that's going to be our first line of defense. So Miss Bunny Michelson had stopped me and suggested that a lot of the residents she noticed weren't wearing their mask. So she thought that maybe any resident that the director saw wearing a mask on campus could be given a drink ticket, whether that's for a beverage or soda or water, anything along those lines. We just want to treat all of our residents that are taking this extremely serious because that's the only way that we can keep everyone safe at the community. Also, just to let you know that the tickets can be used for little treats that can be found in my office if you want to just trade those in, whether you didn't want a beverage. And we just really appreciate your cooperation with this because we're truly trying to keep everyone safe at the community, especially with the spike in Florida. Thank you.
It was brought to our attention by a resident that they received a phone call which was a scam. The caller was saying they were from the Department of Health, informing this resident they were exposed to COVID-19 and asked them for their Medicare number, Social Security number, all their personal information. This is a scam. If you are potentially exposed to COVID-19, it will be someone you know calling, such as a Regency Oaks staff member or your primary care physician to inform you of everything. We want to make sure everyone's practicing consumer awareness, so please watch out for these scam calls. Thank you.
All right, so we've given you an awful lot of information today. I hope you find it helpful. Please be sure to look in your boxes this evening. There's going to be a letter from me with the specifics on the associate over in the assisted living who has tested positive for COVID. Again, we do not believe that represents a risk for any of our independent living residents. You also will find the summary that goes through what has changed in terms of what we're removing, restrictions we're moving, and what has not changed. So I think that will be a good update and help you keep track of this ever-changing environment as we evolve and move forward. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we will see you again on Wednesday. Have a great day.